Hey there, welcome to Concept Hunter. Today we're going to talk about Shadow Arts, which is by Jujusui, I think that's how you say it, and sponsored by KOKOStern.com. There's a really cool fighting system hiding behind lack of feedback, lack of tutorial, and also the system itself doesn't really live up to its full potential. But the concept is really, really cool, and that's what we want to talk about today. So we're going to talk about feedback, we're going to talk about the lack of a tutorial, and how to start thinking about a tutorial, and we're going to talk about what you could do to evolve the system and make it actually what it makes sense, at least to me, to be. So I'm going to click the story and we're going to ignore it completely. And one thing that we have to talk about is the fact that you could move here, and I don't really know why. This game is combat oriented, the combat is the main thing here, and for some reason you move at the start, and later on you don't. So later on you just move between, there's small cutscenes, and you move between combat and combat, which is what you should be doing. It is a good thing to have relief, to have a cutscene between combat, to have, or maybe between every two combat, to give you a little bit of resting between things, maybe have different gameplay. This game doesn't have it, and if you don't have it, just throw it out. There's no need to add fluff to it. If the combat is the core, just leave it as that and just have a lot of combat. That's fine. But don't do something as weird as this. So, oh, there's bandits, whatever, and I'm just going to walk into them and start the combat. So the combat is real time, but we're going to get a little bit of tutorial. All right. Let's try and understand this in terms of feedback. The health bar is at the top, health bar is red, that's kind of normal. You got 3 action bars for 3 different weapons. The yellow is dual swords, the blue is spear and shield, and the green is magic orbs. I don't know what each one of them does, and I don't really understand it, and what's the differences between them, and how they react to each other, and why should I use one over the other. And I'll tell you now, so that is in terms of the tutorial, not explaining, and in the sense of what they actually is and the system actually is, there isn't much of a difference between them, which is the other problem. So, in terms of feedback, you switch between them, right? Well, you'll see in a second, you'll switch between them, but the bottom one is the one currently in use, all right? And they're kind of stacked on top of each other. I wish they were just static instead of switching between them, which is rather confusing. Static, and it make it very clear at which one am I currently on. So, slightly bigger is fine, also kind of have something, an outline around it to show me you're currently on this thing. And you'll see that they cycle through automatically. So Q is normal attack and W is heavy attack. I'll let you know I'll let you know now, is what I meant to say, that heavy attack, I never use it and it's not really necessary to use ever. For the yellow, for the one that we're on right now, if the enemies are close together, it'll deal damage to both of them, but aside from that, there's no real need to ever use that because the animation is slower, and I rather just use the faster attack, the normal attack, the fast attack. So you could have something there in terms of W being a different attack or something more interesting, but instead it's just a longer animation, really, that probably deals more damage, but I never use it. So mostly I'm just going to use Q and E. So what's E, you'll see in a second. I could just place Q. You'll see that when I do something, my action bar goes down, and now they're coming in to attack me. So they flash red, and then they come in to attack me. E will evade if you're yellow, block if you're with the shield, and heal you with the green. And I'll tell you now that in terms of the systems themselves, evade takes a bit of your action bar and evades the attack. Block just sits there, stands there with the shield up, and will block the attack. Evade is time-based, block isn't time-based, but they both do the exact same thing. Block doesn't constantly go down, so you don't want to block unless you're blocking, so it's not time-based, it's just you stand there and wait until they attack you. So block is always better than evade. It is strictly better than evade because evade is timing-based, and they both do the same thing, and just take action bar as you get damage, and heal will heal you, but if you're on the green, if you're on the green orbs, whatever it is, you can't evade attack. So if something is attacking you, you don't want to be on the green one because you're only capable of healing a bit, and it will not offset the damage that you take. So once again, I can evade stuff, I can attack them, I can do this, blah. Okay, it's switched in the middle, I can do, and if you click a lot, it'll just continue doing them. And now I can manually change between weapons with IOP. So my right hand needs to go on IOP or space, and they will switch automatically, as you've noticed, if it depletes completely. So I'm on the green, and you can notice that the other 2 bars are slowly coming up. And this is actually a cool system, I think. That it's a cool system that you have to mix and match and switch between them to whichever one you want. that is relevant for the situation. The problem is that you threw me immediately into so many buttons and so many things that I don't know the meaning of, and it's not coherent at all. I have no idea what I'm doing, really. A sidestep for that: results, damage dealt, damage received, and gold earned. All of these relate to the amount of stars that you get. I have no idea how. I have no idea how to get more stars. I don't really understand anything about this screen, and the only thing that really matters is the gold earned, which I have no, again, control over because I don't know. And at the end of the chapter, which is about an hour from now in terms of attack, not an hour, but a long time, a lot of fights, only then will I get to use the gold on upgrades, which I also don't really know what they mean, but we'll never get there. So that's just a side note of another something that's not done that well. We could do left and right to change targets. Notice the target reticle, and we can change targets. Why would I change targets? Because presumably there are different, I might want to focus one or the other more so, or maybe I have AoE attacks, which we do have one, but it's not really useful. Sadly, there's really no reason for me to ever do that, and also, if my hand is on IOP and QWE, I don't have a third hand to go on the arrow keys, which is a problem. Luckily, I really don't need to change targets, so I can actually play with one hand and be totally fine and never switch between them. And you can note, once you start playing, you probably can't see it right now, but what happens is that I attack them about 3 times, I think. And after I attack them 3 times, they start defending. Unless I'm ranged. If I'm ranged, it's not. But now it'll start defending, and I just don't do any damage. If I attack him while he's defending, I don't do any damage. And I have to wait until they attack me for them to be able to receive damage. So it's attack, 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 and then they start defending, and then I have to switch. I'll just switch to this. I don't know if I could show it again. But yeah, now he's just defending until he'll attack me, and then I'll be able to deal damage. So the AI is always the same, and this is true for all different types of grunts and enemies that you face. So that's another thing that could be a lot better, but it isn't. And you can see her, by the way, she's running automatically. She's automatically running to the next thing. I don't know why there was the left and right thing at the beginning of the game, and I can't even look at the story thing. There was a story bit at the top. If I don't manage to read it, there's space to remove it, but if I don't manage to read it, then she just runs into the next fight on her own. So, in terms of tutorializing this, think about just having only one bar. First of all, the basic controls. One bar is not complicated, but I want to understand how the game works. So allow me to only have one bar, one enemy. This is tutorial. The enemy maybe doesn't move. Maybe it's a training dummy or whatever it is. It doesn't move, and I can get familiar with the core controls that I have. Then introduce me to a second bar. So now I can switch between the 2 bars that I have. We talked about feedback and how it would be much better to show the differences between them. But there's 2 different weapons, and then these 2 different weapons also need to have meaning. I want to have one weapon better against this enemy and the other weapon better against that enemy. So there's a reason for me to switch between them. There's a reason for me to choose targets, right? And this kind of screams rock, paper, scissors. You don't have to go there. You don't have to do that. This is strictly the way that you should play the game. But it screams something. It needs a reason to switch between them. It really just screams enemies that are weak to a specific type. It really, really does. But you could do anything. You could also later on have each weapon has different attacks, and you could choose which attacks you want on Q, W, and E. That will totally work, but that's way, way further down the line. I need some kind of interest here, some kind of strategy between the 3 of them instead of just having whatever. It's not much difference. You know, W is almost never used. The heavy attack is almost never used because it's not very useful to me. And I could beat the entire first chapter by just QWE without ever switching between them myself because there was no need for me to do that. And in the tutorial, once I have 2 bars, give me a couple of fights of that. Let me understand what are the differences between them, why would I use them, and then at the end, you give me a 3rd one, and then we're coming in. I'm already very comfortable with the 2 of them switching between them, and now I have a 3rd one, so I have to think about it better. You could also move the controls if you actually do what I said with the feedback and just have 3 bars. So have the one that's currently used a bit in front and outlined, and then you could only have up and down arrow keys in order to switch between the ones that you want, and left and right to also switch between targets, so that I'll have only 2 hands instead of having to have 3. There's a really cool system. There's a really cool concept here. I can see myself like, yeah, I'm just switching between, and it could be cool. I can see it in my head, but the execution here is not enough, unfortunately. work more on it, and I think you have something cool here. It's called Shadow Arts. Once again, it's by Jujuswi. I hope that's how you spell it. And KOKOStern.com is the sponsor. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.